Okay, so in this week's guitar lesson, we're going to learn how to play a funky rhythm that's so much fun to play, and it's actually not that difficult. You can do this on electric or acoustic guitar if that's all you have. I think it sounds better on electric. But we're going to break everything that I played in the intro down note for note, and I'll also give you my thought process for how you create this kind of music. So if you want to improvise and play this style, or if you want to write your own thing, I'll give you at least my thought process for how to do that. So we'll break all of this down over the course of 2 videos. In this video, we're going to go through the first half, and I'll put some of the tab up on the screen and we'll break it down that way. If you'd like to learn the entire thing, as well as download the tablature and have the MP3 jam tracks so that you can practice playing everything, which I have in 2 tempos. I have a slower tempo version as well. You can get all of that by going to activemelody.com, go to the weekly lessons page, and do a search for EP439. Okay, let's talk through tone real quick because I always get questions about this. So the tone here is it's actually, from the amp's perspective, it's a pretty clean sound, but there's a little bit of breakup. You can hear just a little bit. If I dig in, it breaks up just a little. So whatever amp you have, just give it a little bit of overdrive. And you never want to go pure clean channel. At least I don't. I like to have a little bit of overdrive because you get a little extra sustain, and it gives you that little bit of punch you need. So you can hear that breakup in there. It's subtle, but it's there. So in terms of guitar, I'm playing on the Stratocaster and I'm on the bridge pickup. So whatever pickups you have, kind of go for the one that's farthest away from the neck. And then I have the tone all the way up. Now that's just how I have it set for this. Obviously you can set it up however you want. But I like the nasally breakup sound when I'm playing this style of music. This kind of... that kind of chunky thing. It sounds better to me to have more of a treble sound, which you get from that bridge pickup. Now this song is played in the key of A, and the bass is going... something like that. I can't remember exactly how I played it, but it's just a real simple little bass line, and then there's a keyboard that comes in going... playing an A major chord in a few spots. And then it goes from an A major to, there's this little switch to the D. It goes to a D sus4 chord, and then to a D major chord. And then back to the A. Now that's the first part. And that's really everything we're going to be talking about in this is really that. It's just an A chord, and then a D sus4 to a D. But I'm not really playing those chords at all in any of this. What I end up playing goes something like this. And that's what we're going to talk through. It's a style of playing that is kind of a little bit dated, actually. I think of like bands like the Meters. Actually, this ends up sounding a little bit more like Sissy Strut than I meant for it to. I'm such a fan of that song. I'm a fan of the Meters in general. I think they're just such a great band. But it's got kind of that early 80s, like to me it's like a 70s. It goes back into reggae and other things. But this sound... if you listen to Michael Jackson Thriller, you'll hear that throughout that album. You know, just that sound of electric guitar, the chunky thing. So I'm going to give you 3 principles to think about when it comes to playing this style. The first is when you're playing the single string things, not doubles, but singles, I'm mostly playing on the bottom 3 strings. Now I'm going to give you some generalities here. This isn't like the gospel, but this is just sort of my impression of this. When you're doing the single string thing, try and stay to the bottom 3 strings. And when I'm playing note-wise, or in terms of parameter, is I'm playing in the pentatonic scale. This is just the A minor pentatonic scale. The song is in A, and even though it's an A major chord, I'm still playing A minor pentatonic scale. And so this would be pattern 1 of the minor pentatonic scale. We're going to play the bottom 3 strings, but instead of me going like this, the way that you probably know the shape, I do it like this. Same notes, but what it allows you to do is you can come down and hit this low note as well. And so if you look at this visually, what you have is 2 boxes. You have one box here. You can see that between the 3rd fret and the 5th fret, 6th string, 5th string. And then you have another box up here, 5th string to the 7th fret. So that makes that pretty easy. So that's a really easy way of thinking about low notes of the minor pentatonic scale. Obviously you could move everything down 3 frets and get into the major pentatonic scale using the same thing, but let's just keep it simple and just think about minor pentatonic. That's where most of the single string things that I'm playing is coming from. It's coming from these little boxes down here. All right, so that's the first point I want to make, is those single string lines come from the bottom 3 strings, not the top 3. The second thing, which kind of relates to the first thing, is we're going to use palm muting to get that chunky sound. You don't want any strings ringing out. You want to control them because you're playing more rhythmically. And to do that, you rest this part of your hand on the strings back here. Now, I find it easiest to go as close to the bridge as I can. I find I have more control, and it mutes it in just the right way. It gives you the right amount of tension if you do it that way. So anyway, that's the second thing. So the first thing is bottom 3 strings. Second thing is palm muting. The last point I want to make on this style is your hand, your right hand, has to stay in motion the whole time. Whether you're playing or not, whether you're doing muted strums, even if you're playing nothing, I still keep my hand in motion. Let me demonstrate. I'll play through this little hook that we're going to be playing through and watch the motion of my right hand. Notice that in between there, down, up, down, bump, keep it going the whole time. And so that's just another thing that you'll notice, and it'll become more comfortable as you do it. I know it's awkward at the beginning when you're, especially if you're newer to playing, you're even awkward holding the pick. Everything is awkward, right? And you're just trying to get comfortable with it. But once you can start feeling it, kind of like you're just tapping, you know, that's what it feels like. You're just kind of keeping a little rhythm going without having to think about it so much. Then a lot of this rhythmic stuff starts to happen. Okay, so before we jump into the specific things that I played, I want you to just try this, just to get the alternate picking with your right hand and left hand, actually the syncopation between the two, and also this palm muting. Let's go to the 4th string and come up here to the 7th fret, and we're going to go between the 7th fret and the 5th fret. Just those 2 notes, but I want you to palm mute them like this. So you have to kind of play around with your hand. If it's too muted, or you can't hear anything, keep moving your hand back. At some point, you'll get a little bit of a sound like that. See, if I come forward too much, it's too muted. But you can hear when it starts to come into focus, and that's really finding where your hand needs to be. So once you can get that tone, then I want you to go. I'm making this up. It's already starting to sound like Magnum PI a little bit, right? It's got just that dated 80s sound. But that is the vibe here. All right, so now that you've got that little exercise, which is really just designed to help you find the tone for palm muting and a little bit of syncopation, let's go from this first box down into this second box. So now let's take the same thing and go. And then repeat it. So I'm going from this box down to here. So now I'm going 5th fret, down to the 3rd fret, down to the 5th fret, 6th string. So it's down, up, down, up, down, up. So it ends on an upstroke. And then what do you do with your hand between that and then coming back? So pay attention to that. So watch this. Notice my hand is naturally did a little kind of ghost downstroke there. Or a little muted strum. It's doing something to keep the rhythm there. And I can't help it. It just does it on its own. And so that's the next thing I just wanted to kind of point out is just to get you thinking about going from one box to the next box, and then how do you come back while keeping your hand in motion. So just kind of practice that. You can put on a metronome if you want, or whatever you need to do, but you start to get that sound. You start to get that chunky sound when you practice that. All right, so now let's go into the specific rhythm for this lesson. So I started this with this lick that goes. So that's the first thing we're gonna learn. Now this is minor pentatonic scale pattern 1. I'm just walking right down it. I'm playing strings 2 and 3 on the 5th fret. And when I play it, you hear that little pull there? It's pulling it a little bit sharp. And you tend to do that anytime you're playing around this. Really, you're pushing it from the minor third into the major third. That's what you're doing sound-wise. So anyway, a little pull there, and then 7, 5, 7. So that's 4th string down to the 5th string. And again, it's just minor pentatonic scale, pattern 1. So we have, and by the way, it's down, down, up, down, 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 up, down. And now we're gonna go. Now this is similar to the practice exercise we were just doing. It's 5th fret to the 7th fret on the 4th string. So it's 5, 7, 5, down, up, down. And then we go 3, 5, 3. Same thing, but we're just down to this box. And then down to your low A note, which is on the 5th fret, 6th string. So far we have. Now, for those of you that are playing along with a jam track, this comes in on the 2. So if you're counting it in, you'd say 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2. So it comes in on the 2, not on the 1. So that's important. Now after that, we're going to come up here and hit strings 1 and 2 on the 5th fret. And that's just a little burst. It almost sounds like a horn part. You hear that in a lot of funk rhythm. And then the song goes to this little lick here. Now this lick is where it switches to a D chord. It actually goes from a D sus4 to a D. That'd be kind of like playing your D down here. And your pinky to the 3rd fret, 1st string. I know you know that, right? D sus4 to a D. And what I played was this. Let me show you how to play it. So I'm borrowing the first 4 strings here on the 7th fret. We're playing strings 4 and 3. We do a hammer onto the 9th fret, 4th string. And then we come down, my bar jumps to bar the first 5 strings now. So I'm going to be playing strings 4 and 5. And I'm going to do another hammer onto the 9th fret, but this time on the 5th string. So we have, and then I do an upstroke on strings 3 and 4. So that lick then sounds like that. Now this is an embellishment off of your D chord using the A shape. This will be a light bulb for some of you. So when you think about playing the A shape out of caged, we're playing our D chord. Where my pinky is, in this case, I'm playing. That's the triad, right? That's the D triad. You've got, if you come up here and play, which would be in the G shape out of cage, but if you come up in this neighborhood, you've got. There's other things we can get into, but I'm just going to limit it right now to that little embellishment. I love that. I play that all the time. It's country, it's rock, it's everything to me. It's also Hendrix. I hear that in so much music. And I know that if I'm ever playing this chord shape, I can slide into this neighborhood and play these little embellishments. Now after that, I played down, up, down, muted. And that's just to keep the rhythm going so that I can come back to what I started with. So there's the little burst, down, up, down. So down, up, down. Let's do it again. Let me do it slowly. And then we go right back into it. Let me play along with a jam track. I'll put the tab up on the screen as well so that you can hear it. This will be a slow version of the jam track, but you can hear it in context. Alright, so that's as far as we're going to get in this lesson. That's really the hook that I play over and over again. I played through it 4 times. It really does make sense to play along with the jam track because you can get your timing. You can start with the slow version of the jam track and then you can work your way up to the faster tempo version. But there's so much that's going on here from a technique standpoint, palm muting, alternate picking between the left and right hand, just trying to stay on tempo. And then, you know, you're trying to create a rhythm, a driving rhythm with a little bit of a shuffle. So there's a lot of things your brain is having to do, keeping your hand in motion, but it's a really good exercise. And once you get this down, you'll see that you can make these rhythms out of the pentatonic scale anytime, anywhere. You don't always have to play chords. If you're playing rhythm, you can play the thing that we started with, right? The little practice exercise. And you can work into those two boxes. That's a great spot. That's a great spot. And now you can do that in any key because you can relate it back to your chord shape, right? So hopefully that'll give you something to work on. We'll see you in part 2 where we'll go over the second half. There's a little bit more that we'll go through and we'll break all that down note for note. If you're not a premium member yet, I'd encourage you to look into it. I have 10 years worth of in-depth lessons like this, all designed to help you become better at improvising and just better at playing the guitar. All right, we'll see you in part 2.